Welcome to our Ask Me Anything webinar, solving the top 7 WhatsUp Gold support issues. I'm Larry Goldman, Director of Product Marketing, and your host for today. We're kicking off the new year with a highly practical webinar, one we hope that will give you at least a few ideas and tips to help you avoid some of the most common issues you might encounter with WhatsUp Gold. So we've assembled a crack team for you today, one with over 36 combined years of experience with WhatsUp Gold. This crew's seen it all, and they've done it all. They put the me and ask me anything. Providing WhatsUp Gold insight today are Damian Johnson, Dan Kirkland, and Theo Herrera. Damian is the Senior Manager of Technical Support. He has 12 years with Ipswich Progress, having also held the roles of TSE1, TSE2, and TSE3. His specialties include NTA NetFlow, configuration management, and helping customers to solve complex problems using WUG, or WhatsUp Gold. Theo Herrera is a senior technical support engineer with 8 years with WhatsUp Gold products, starting it out as a TSE1. His specialties include Elasticsearch, log management, and APM, and he loves to investigate WhatsUp Gold and OS SQL interactions and the REST API. Finally, we've got Dan Kirkland, Senior Technical Support Engineer with 15 years of Ipswich Progress experience. He's been around since version 12.0, and he's held the roles of TSE and the WUGMD Product Manager. So his specialties include the WUGMD Log Management, the former WUGMD Log Management, I should say, and solving mysteries without any clues. So definitely an Ask Me Anything kind of guy. I feel like I'm one of those flight attendants who say, if you're not here to learn about WhatsUp Gold, now's the time to disembark. I believe most, if not everyone in our audience, is a WhatsUp Gold customer. So I suspect you're watching this presentation because you are either newish to the solution, or perhaps you're an old hand looking to see if you can add 1 or 2 additional nuggets to your store of WhatsUp Gold expertise. In either case, we've got an excellent presentation ahead, and we're going to cover areas like monitoring, alerting, databases, and more. But first, I want to mention a new resource for all of our customers. It's our Getting Started with WhatsUp Gold Administration course. This free on-demand course is available through whatsupgold.com or the community portal, and it's a great way to learn the basics. We highly recommend it for all new users or teams of users. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to Theo and the team to reveal ways to solve the top 7 common WhatsUp Gold support issues. Now, remember, you can ask questions using the WhatsUp Gold question dialog at any time. So we're going to go through these, and then we'll take the questions at the end, but feel free to put them in as we go. With that, turn it over to you, Theo.
Thank you, Larry. The first issue we'll be addressing is, why are my monitors in a down state? Another question that this could be is, why is my device down? One of the best ways to view this type of information is the state change timeline. The state change timeline report will show you exactly a time frame in which a monitor went into a down state and the reason for that down state. Those can be anything from a timeout issue, or my device is no longer communicating back and forth due to networking issues as well. One major thing that we need to take in consideration also when reviewing your devices, and if they are in a up or down state, is, are those monitors actually needed? One thing to take in consideration is interface monitors themselves. Do you need to monitor every interface that's connected to every device, or just the actual critical interfaces between routers and switches? At this moment, I think it would be good to move on to the next issue, which Dan will be picking up on, which goes over balancing and monitoring to resources.
Thank you, Theo. So WhatsUp Gold, it first introduced in 1997 as a simple ping tool. And since then, we've added the ability to monitor devices, applications, network traffic in probably more than 100 ways that you can speak or receive information from your network. And with that in mind, before you discover this vast expanse and all the items that are available to you, it's important to map out what's important. Now, people do buy WhatsUp Gold for a multitude of different monitoring solutions. It can be anything from just doing your basic, I want to watch, the network equipment, just the network gear itself, and, be able to watch for hotspots that occur, bandwidth utilization, things like that. Or you might have some very special need, like I want to watch the temperature gauges on these meat storing lockers, or I'm going to do satellite connections to large ships that are, I'm going to monitor the health of those ships from WhatsUp Gold. I've seen WhatsUp Gold deployed in a lot of different ways, but one of the common things that occurs now, especially that we're no longer just doing simple ping, is people discover their network and they'll get back an overwhelming amount of devices and options. Sometimes they don't even realize how much they're pulling in until they go to monitor. And the old adage definitely applies. If everything's an emergency, then nothing's an emergency. So it's important to sit down and have a discussion with your group or the people that you're going to monitor. What's really important for them to know, what should be alerted on, and what should just be watched for trends in the reporting of WhatsUp Gold, which is another function of WhatsUp Gold. So when you discover, you can go through and say, I only want to do a certain range, or I want devices to only return these types of monitors. All those things are available in WhatsUp Gold. You can customize WhatsUp Gold to only bring in the relevant information that you need to monitor on and keep your, section of the part of your company that you're responsible for relevant. So making that determination first, map it out, and then run your discovery and test your results. Be selective about what you monitor. This goes back to a case where we had a customer that was basically alerting on everything in their network, and it caused I want to say it was 50,000 emails went out and basically knocked the Exchange server offline. And this was years ago, but we had the conversation about how many interfaces do you actually need to monitor on that switch? Do you need to monitor everything, even the workstation? So when somebody closes down for the day, you're getting an alert. So evaluating that is very important when you set this up, and you need to consider the network resource usage and database utilization as well. These are all factors. With that, I would like to pass this on to Damien.
Thanks, Dan. The third issue I'm going to talk about here is why the database can become full, or the common scenarios that we have observed from a technical support perspective of why databases become full. But before I go there, I want to talk about where you can observe table usage in WhatsUp Gold. In the web interface, in the dashboard section, you can add a database table dashboard report that will show you the top tables by size, as shown in the slide. This is a really good reference point, because if you come to see that one of the tables is much larger than the other tables, even if your database isn't full, it's probably something you want to give attention to. And your attention might be to take an action such as remove monitors from certain devices that you don't want to collect that data for, or maybe modifying the retention settings for the monitors that are writing to those tables. And if you need some reference to which table names are responsible for the data collection that's used in WhatsUp, we can help you with that here, either in tech support, or there's some user information in our documentation and knowledge bases articles as well. Of course, you're always free to contact technical support if you have an active service agreement. But one of the more common reasons that we see databases become full is because of frequent polling to devices. By default, we poll performance monitors every 10 minutes. We poll active monitors every minute. The passive monitors are usually the ones that cause a database to fill rapidly. We have an option that allows unsolicited traffic to be written to the database. And we also have a feature that should be used for testing. It's called the Any passive monitor, and we have that for Windows events and syslog. So if you're just trying to test to see if you can collect data from said device before you configure filters, since WhatsUpp is not an archiving tool, it's really used for alerting notification purposes. You could use those monitor types, the Any passive monitor types. And when you do that, if you have something, say like a firewall, which is constantly outputting data, and you have like a syslog listener linked to WUG, it's going to fill up the tables pretty quickly. And one thing you can do once you've identified, the culprit in that scenario I gave, it be your firewall, you want to remove that Any passive monitor, configure the proper filter for the data you want to collect from that device. And then maybe you want to go adjust the retention settings for that device, and you can do that in the web interface. If you are in the web interface, there's a data retention settings for the active performance and passive monitors that you can configure. We recommend actually doing this out of the box. If you don't plan on looking at active monitor usage for 365 days, just go ahead and reduce the retention settings for those. It'll save you some troubleshooting steps and housekeeping steps in the future. And with that, I'm going to pass this back over to Dan, where he's going to talk about best practices for collection and alerting of performance monitors.
Thanks, Damien. So kind of going off of what Damien just presented, and also something I mentioned, our Alert Center is a great feature that we introduced where you could actually set thresholds against performance monitor data. So it increased the efficiency of how you could monitor your environment by taking data that had already been pulled in via the performance monitor and being able to set a threshold, to be able to set notification policies with threshold checks. But there is one caveat to that. This is fully dependent on SQL. At the time that we do an Alert Center check, we're not going to the device and asking any questions. We're going into the database and pulling this information back and saying, okay, here's the information. Does it match the threshold check? And then you proceed. The customer that contacted us, their environment was terribly slow. Their database had reached, into the hundreds of gigabytes, and they're just at a loss at, why things were performing so badly. Well, they had set these threshold alerts en masse on items that were not necessarily important. That one design feature around Alert Center is when you're alerted, you're supposed to react to that and resolve it. So having it to just be there and pulling this information without actually resolving the issue is not the purpose of Alert Center.
Dan, I also want to comment on that the thresholds themselves should always be set with a larger threshold than a check. They were not designed to be worked by let's say by 10 minute by 10 minute. More along the lines, the threshold will need to be at least a larger number. Example being 60 minutes, and you check every 10 minutes.
Correct. And this is, again, the one thing about Alert Center is it was developed and designed so that the people responsible for whatever the threshold was would react immediately, and then there's an escalation process that takes place. Now, in a previous place, when we had the escalation process, the president of the company was at the top of it, and if he got that email, it was bad news for everybody. So, expediency is the idea here of resolving an issue. So I'll jump on over into port exhaustion. In 2008, R2, Windows increased the dynamic port range from what had been 5,000 to 15, and it became the upper dynamic port range. The reason this is significant is WhatsUp Gold, while you're monitoring your environment, we're sending out requests. We have to open a port and send out the request. Some ports expire quickly, like doing a ping, that port's going to open up and close again. If you're doing SSH, it might hang out there for a while. If you're doing WMI and there's a problem, it might remain open even longer. Port exhaustion is a very common issue for not only WhatsUp Gold, but also for a lot of applications out in the wild. So if you go up and look at port exhaustion, you'll see a lot of articles on it. We usually recommend that you go ahead and increase your dynamic port range on a WhatsUp Gold dedicated server to 32K. That allows for any latency in any of the protocols that are being used. Damien already touched on passive monitors. Again, that's more of a space consumer in SQL, and SQL space, as we all know, is rather expensive. Dynamic groups, they're ways of filtering out devices by certain attributes. Those query the database every 60 seconds looking for an update to that list. So think in terms of if you're creating a lot of dynamic groups, as you see, it says 496, that will absolutely take over communication between the application and the SQL Server instance. So we usually recommend use these well, use them sparingly. There are other ways to filter in WhatsUp Gold beyond the dynamic groups. And with that, I will turn it over to Damien.
Thanks again, Dan. And before I begin this next slide, I just want to remind everyone that we'll be taking questions at the end. So just hold tight and continue to capture any questions that you may have for the end here. The next item I'm going to be talking about is our WUGMD tool and why it's needed to open a case. The reason why we would like to collect this information from you is because it would give us a starting point to begin troubleshooting issues such as why my database is full that I mentioned in my previous slide. We also collect some logging information about the system, about group information in WhatsUp, errors. Typically when you log a ticket with WhatsUpp technical support, we're looking for errors. In a lot of cases, if we can track back why the errors are occurring, we can identify root cause for the problem that's being reported. And with that, I'm going to turn this back over to Theo. He's going to talk about how to preserve settings and data in WhatsUp Gold.
So how to preserve the settings and data in inside WhatsUp Gold? Well, the one key thing to remember that there are two ways. If you're using a SQL Express with the WhatsUp Gold product, it would be through our WhatsUp Gold admin console, which you can back up the databases themselves, WhatsUpp, NetFlow, and NF Archive. And that data will consist of anything that you can see within the web console, with the exception of background images, as well as MIB files themselves will not show inside that database. That is normally part of the actual installation itself, not the actual database. The other method would be through, if you're running a full SQL, a DBA could easily back that database up, as the functionality I mentioned from the admin console only works for the actual local instance that comes with it, or the local instances of SQL. It does not work with any remote instance of SQL. The original intention was to be used with the SQL Express with our product for the functionality in the admin console. So that is one key thing to remember there. Like I said, no MIB files and no images. That is data that has to be maintained on your side. That's not data that we actually will keep long-term inside the database. All right, and then we'll move on to our last issue. This issue is can I monitor X, which will be covered by Dan. All right, Dan.
Thanks, Theo. So, can I monitor X? The answer to that is yes. There are a lot of different ways to do this, and we provide quite a few pre-configured methods using most things that you monitor. Will start with a credential, however. So we have 15 different credentials. Some of them are industry standard, some of them are vendor specific. So in that realm, there are SMP, Windows, VMware, some of the cloud-based credentials. Now, we do have pre-canned monitoring solutions. Most of those surround CPU, memory, interface, disk, up and down status, but you will have some products that don't always follow industry standards, or maybe there's a counter that you're specifically interested in. And so we've expanded the ability to monitor beyond our pre-configured monitors with a custom monitoring through scripting. And PowerShell has become pretty much the standard. Everybody's working with PowerShell, but there's VB, there's JScript, SSH. It's code that you basically develop yourself. And we have a community that will get involved in, you can do code sharing through our community. And there's a wealth of experience from other WhatsUp Gold users in our community that maybe they've already faced this scripting, maybe they've already worked through some of the process to share, and they'll share it, and then they'll actually even respond back to you when you have some issues. So in that way, the monitoring ability of WhatsUp Gold is pretty wide open to not only what we offer pre-configured, but also to all those things that you can create on your own.
You're right, Dan. Like a good idea, if you're really wanting to dive down in our product and pull information that you really need to through your other applications, VB scripting. Plus, we also have the REST API, which is a really good tool if you're just trying to pull your own type of reports, trying to figure out your own type of monitoring solutions as well. It's a really good place to go as well.
Yeah, I can cite an example. We have a mining company that monitors the 3-story mining trucks that move the material from the mine over to the processing area. And this is done through WMI. Now, we do not have pre-configured monitors for monitoring a lot of the things on a mining truck. However, through scripting and WMI, they were able to create these monitors and efficiently monitor a number of environmental items on these trucks. So that's one really far out example. Sometimes it might just be a counter within, say, your Office 365 that you're wanting to get to, or maybe a counter within some of the network gear that is not exposed through interface utilization. And with that, I will turn this back over to Damien.
Thank you again, Dan. I wanted to inform and remind everyone that's joined us today that there are additional resources available for WhatsUp Gold. We have extensive product documentation on our documentation website. That's docs.ipswitch.com. We also have documentation in the form of knowledge base articles in our community page. You can actually also find some of the product documentation in the community if you search there. We have how-to videos on YouTube, and we also have best practices guides, and these are going to be some white papers on our best practices to use WhatsUp Gold. So there's some really useful information there. So this is the last slide, and now we can handle some questions.
Thanks, Damien, and thanks, Dan and Theo. This has been great. Those are certainly very common, broad areas that we that you often hear about. I'm glad you addressed those. I know we have a number of questions already. If again, reminder to everyone attending, if you have a question, and it could be on something that that the team covered, or it could be maybe something that you were wondering about for WhatsUp Gold. This is the time. You've got a professional team right here. So first one though that came in, Monty wrote in and he wanted to know about the training link for the training that I mentioned at the very beginning. And I put a note in the chat with the link there. All you have to do is go to the whatsupgold.com website, and there's I think it's under how to buy, there's a training link. And if you go onto that page and go to the lower right corner, you'll see a button. And all you have to do is just log in as a customer, and it takes you to our training center, and the course is right there. And you can start right away. The course could take about 8 hours. I mean, there's a lot of content in there. So that's a good one. Here's another question from Devin. Where can I back up my database if I'm using a remote SQL server? I don't know who wants to take that one.
Yes. So if you're using a remote SQL server, it's best that you connect with your database administrator. You can use, in most cases, SQL Management Studio to perform backups. And if you're command line savvy, there's some command line SQL tools that you can use to make backups as well. But the best course is to use SQL Management Studio. It's a GUI-based application that lets you interact with WhatsUp databases, not just WhatsUpp databases, but any type of Microsoft SQL database.
Okay, here's actually one that just came in from Jeff that I think is related. Hi, we're monitoring a SQL server and would like to be notified when the disk that contains log files is over 70%. How can we apply the policy to the server and only get alerts for that drive?
One possible way to actually accomplish this would probably be through the folder monitor. You can monitor the directory that it's actually those log files are located in, and to see it from there, you can probably determine either by size or new entries that are showing up inside there. That's just kind of going off, just basically what the question could be more to it. It would take a little bit more to look into, but that's just off the top of my head. The folder monitor is the place to go for that one.
He says thanks. Okay. Here's one from Stu. Can I make any adjustments for false down notifications?
False down notifications. One way, first use the state change timeline to see why the false downs are happening first. If they're due to like timeouts or the device not responding quick enough, you would want to adjust the actual monitor's actual retries and timeouts. You would go, prime example, you would go to the interface monitor inside our actual the monitor library. You would edit, and then you can change it for the actual time frame set in which it retries and how long it waits. So that's where I would start off with that one, is just adjusting timeouts for the monitors themselves.
Yeah. And segueing into that, the port exhaustion also comes into play with this. So again, that we do have an article in our knowledge base that covers adjusting the port, dynamic port range on your WhatsUp Gold server. We've seen this resolve a lot of the intermittent timeout issues that you'll see with active monitors.
Right. Okay. Here's one from Sarah. She's a new WUG admin facing an upgrade from 2021 to 2022. I'm thinking maybe it's 2022.1. Are there known issues or things to watch out for? She's just getting familiar with the product, so I think this is sort of a general question about upgrades, and maybe some tips on that.
Okay, well, so the first thing I would recommend is if this is a virtual server, which most of them are, take a snapshot. If you have a development network that you can stand up an evaluation in, you can run that for a period of 14 days. make sure that it's adjusting to whatever your monitoring environment is, and then you can proceed with the upgrade. There are not any outstanding universal known issues with this release currently.
Yeah, we also have our inside our release notes for 2022. We have a section in there of things that have been addressed from the previous version. Well, it's really good to look over so you can see the benefits of just going up to the next version as well.
I would also throw in that during the upgrade process, you're prompted to make a backup of your database. We highly recommend doing that before proceeding in the event that you need to roll back, or if you encounter any issues during the upgrade, you can restore that working copy.
Great. Here's one from Lou. Is there a limit to how many items you can monitor in a single install?
Okay, so the answer to that is it does depend, because not all monitoring environments are built out the same. You have to be able to factor in, are you working with ping or are you working with SSH? Do you have devices and locations that have tendency to have some latency to them? Are you pulling back an enormous amount of WMI? So all these things factor in. We have some generalized numbers in our release notes, but the best way to understand this is to monitor your WhatsUp Gold environment just like you do the rest of your network, and watch for the signs. You can see latency occurring on polling. You can see maybe your SQL environment is starting to heat up. You can watch the traffic going across the network through NTA. You can see bandwidth utilization. So treat your WhatsUp environment in the same way that you're monitoring the rest of your environment. And when you see that there's an increase, and you know that you are actually doing a lot of monitoring, that will be your indication if you need to deploy a scalability polar, or maybe deploy an additional distributed version of WhatsUp Gold.
And to kind of piggyback off of that with from Dan about monitors, right? The different types of monitors. You got to remember that SNMP is a lot more simplistic and easier in the entire network, of course, within reason, depending on how many you're sending or how much is communicating, than a WMI or anything more sophisticated. They're going to cause a lot more communication through type of authentications they do. That also puts that on the WUG server as well, not just your network. So you got to be a little bit more, like I said, you don't want to shove everything to the same protocol, but you come to find out it's a resource heavy protocol. You'll start noticing performance hits. So, all right.
All right. Hey, here's one from Chad. Is it possible to set up a task script that will run on a networking switch that failed policy audit?
There certainly is. If you're using WhatsUp Gold Premium license with a configuration management plugin, or if you are using a total license, you have access to configuration management. And configuration management does let you automate tasks such as backups, but not only does it just back up, you can configure thresholds that would check for items just like Chad's asking for. And you can configure whatever I guess passages or lines in that device that you're wanting to audit against. So for example, if you have a Cisco device, for example, if you have some devices out there and you want to make sure the creds are encrypted, you can use the service password encryption audit to make sure those are enabled on some devices. There's some wildcards and regex you can throw in there to do a catch-all on certain phrases. And you can add those across multiple lines and backup as well. So we do have the ability to do that, and configuration management is the tool to do it in WhatsUp Gold.
All right. Here's one from Michael. Is there a plan to return to regular updates? The recent updates have been security updates. I think in terms of the releases, we like the last release in 2022.1 actually had quite a number of new features beyond just security. Am I reading that one wrong, guys?
No, I think that the answer to the question there is that the reason for the security updates is because we try to put security first, while we have some other items in the backlog that have been checked into code. When we realize the security vulnerability is out there, we look to patch those first. So that's kind of the reason why you're seeing those more than your standard updates.
Right. Yeah. They for sure security is always on our mind, but especially in the last release, quite a few number of ease of use features that we've put in there, and a number of automation features as well. It's always trying to automate and add some. We often add new features that are suggested on the community. So if there are some things you're looking for, I would recommend going to the community site and to maybe even join our CVP, which is where people come on and customers, and we take their suggestions very seriously for ways to improve the product. So there are a number of ways that if there's things for our customers that they're concerned about and want to see in the product, they can let us know. And that's the end of the questions, but I want to ask a question. So maybe go round robin on this, but when we designed this, we said, well, let's just limit it to 7 issues. But I'm wondering if there isn't some tip or something that you'd want to conclude on. We've got so much experience here online. So maybe start with Damien. Is there anything that you'd want to finish up on that you think would be important for customers to remember?
Yeah, there is something that jumps out. We often work with customers that are in hardened environments. There are government municipalities, and they have restrictions on software that can be installed on the network. And oftentimes when we're trying to troubleshoot something, we're looking at items that are on the wire because we're a network monitoring software. And typically we'll ask for customers to run a Wireshark packet capture and send it back to us. And it's not very common, but every now and then we'll get a scenario like I just described. Customers aren't allowed to have Wireshark installed on their systems. I wanted to let folks know that Windows actually has a built-in packet capture tool. There's actually several depending on what version of Windows you're using. Windows Server 2019 has a different tool, but you can use an application from the command line called NetTrace, and you can pull that up, in any Microsoft KB. That's NetTrace, NET-TRAC, and you can apply some filters, similar to what you would do in Wireshark. The syntax is different, but that would really help us to diagnose items as they're occurring on the wire, to understand, for example, why you can log into your switch and it's actually up, but WhatsUp Gold is showing you that it's down.
Yeah, the beauty of Wireshark, just to go a little further on that, is it is recording traffic at the network adapter level. So it catches what is coming and going before it comes to the OS and comes to WhatsUp Gold, and it catches what's leaving out from the OS after we've issued whatever request that's going out for monitoring.
Yep. Correction there. That was NetSH, which you can use for net tracing, and that works in all the active versions of Windows Server that I'm aware of.
All right, Dan or Theo, anything you want to finish with?
Yes. If you're wanting to add anything to the product, have your own ideas, stuff that you want to see improved or anything like that, we do have a AHA page where feature requests can be put in, where you have feedback from both developers and product management. You can get to that site from, it's just whatsup.ideas.aha.io. On that site, it'll give you, like I said, If there's already an existing feature on there, you can upload it, show that your support for it, add your own ideas. Tech support engineers as well, are also in there creating our own ideas as well. So even we are wanting to add something new to the product and wanting to know the customer's feedback on it. So it's not just something just for customers as well. We like to put our ideas to the customers to upvote as also.
The redfish feature was actually delivered through this medium. People want to have, more of a way to monitor physical devices, and so through a lot of input and a lot of different scenarios, we were able to come up with this feature. The last thing I wanted to add was just going back to monitoring your WhatsUp Gold environment. If you have APM, it simplifies that process greatly. Application performance monitoring. We have pre-made profiles for this, and there's at least 30 components that you can monitor that are pre-configured and ready to go. Mm-hmm. And it measures everything from all the services, and then pre-memory, outstanding active monitor results. You can have handle counts, all those things that are relative to understanding when an application is having a performance issue. So that's all I wanted to add to that.
All right. Well, thanks. Thanks, guys. This is great. I know the audience appreciated all the comments and tips and ideas. I think I'm going to start on the community. I'll ask out the question of what other Ask Me Anythings our audience would like, because we're going to do a few of these throughout the year, and we'd love to do an Ask Me Anything that corresponds to what our audience wants to know. So with that, I'm just going to give a thank you again, Damien, Dan, Theo. You guys are great. Appreciate your time and the effort you put into this. Thank our audience for your attendance and your questions as well. And with that, I'll wish everyone a great day. Thanks.
Thank you.